Namaste. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
Om Hari Om. Wonderful. Well, again, everyone, I'm very happy to be here with you this evening. And let me tell you that this evening is going to be quite different from things that we have done in the past as far as Dharma in practice. And that is, we've been going through Bhagavad Gita doing shloka recitation. Today, we're actually going to be speaking about a very specific topic, and it is the principles of success in accordance with Manu. And for people who don't know Manu is one of many Manus, but very specifically, Svayambhuva Manu is considered to be the originator of human beings. He is the first human. He is both a god, but he's also the first human. So as a result, all human beings, what generally in the West especially is called man. Man, not in the gender sense, but you'll see in a second why we even use that term, man. Man comes from Manu. Now we understand why we use that word. People often will make the mistake of thinking, oh, this is some sexist thing. Oh, why don't you say man and woman, etc.? No, there's a reason why in referring to humanity, people traditionally would say man. It's because even unbeknownst to them, actually, the term itself comes from Manu, man, Manu. And indeed, Manu is considered to be the origin of all human beings. Going back actually, back to Lucy 2 million years ago? No, back actually hundreds of millions of years. So he's someone who is very well known for that, but he also is responsible for having done several writings that are now considered to be scripture, part of our scriptures. He's revealed several of these scriptures, one of which is known as the Manava Dharma Shastra, sometimes called Manu Smriti, but the proper name actually is Manava Dharma Shastra, because it is one of the Dharma Shastras. There's a collection of books, an entire genre called the Dharma Shastras, and they're written by various people, and Manu being one of them. So these are several verses indeed from Manu, in which he talks about what it means to truly be successful. And of course, this means primarily beginning with the spiritual, but then in actuality being successful in every way. In every way. That means in both our spiritual life, but also our material life. It means being successful in our education, in our career, in our family life, in everything that we endeavor. It means being successful in our health. It means quite literally every area in which a person can know success. And of course, this also primarily and especially means success spiritually. But all that being said, let's go through these verses from the Manava Dharma Shastra, and we'll try to go through these somewhat quickly. So the first verse is from chapter 4, verse 159 of Manava Dharma Shastra, in which Manu himself states the following: let him carefully avoid all undertakings, the success of which depends on others. But let him eagerly pursue that aim, the accomplishment of which depends on himself. So how nice. This is something that we should have on plaques on government buildings. Because basically what is this saying? What this verse is saying, and it's so amazing how people are not aware of just how much wisdom there is in the Vedic literature. Those of us here, of course, know this, but I'm talking about general society. And this is just one of thousands of amazing little gems like this. Where what is Manu speaking about? He's speaking about self-reliance. What he's saying is that if one is to accomplish something, indeed, if you are going to have success in your life, it's better that it is self-built rather than something in which you had to overly rely on someone else. Now, of course, this begs the question, someone can play Asura's advocate and say, but shouldn't we also try to do things cooperatively? Is it wrong to have or seek the assistance of others? Well, of course not. No, there's nothing wrong with that. And indeed, we should all be helping each other in every way. We should help others, others should help us. Indeed, this is one of the hallmarks of the ISDS itself. As people know, we all, in any way that we can, we do indeed try to help each other, and legitimately so. Not just with words, but we truly try to help each other. So indeed, that is definitely the case. But what Manu is talking about here are individuals who indeed do not possess the self-reliance within themselves necessary such that when they finally achieve some sort of aim toward which they were endeavoring, they can then have the self-pride of knowing that, I did this. I didn't just rely on others. I didn't go out of my way begging for help from others, taking handouts when I really didn't need them, etc., etc. But no, this is also part of the Vedic way. It always has been, actually. This has been part of the Vedic way. This is what it means to be Arya, to be a noble person, is that it is our tendency as devotees that we indeed try to create success in our life, relying on ourselves as much as is possible. We don't seek charity. We don't seek too much outside assistance, but rather we want to have that very healthy pride of knowing that, all right, I wanted to build a career for myself. I worked hard and I did it. Did others help me? Sure, of course. But still, I have that knowledge of knowing that, I did this. And as a result, I truly, legitimately have the right to now enjoy the fruits of my labor. You see, when you've built something yourself, then you have the ability and the right to enjoy the fruits a little bit. And even then, of course, in a detached sort of way. Even then, of course, with the idea that, even those fruits, they should ultimately be offered to Krishna, at the feet of Krishna. But still, having that little bit of healthy pride, knowing that, I accomplished something that was difficult, and yet I had everything that was necessary to do this. I had what? I had the self-discipline. I had the vision. I had the perseverance. It's interesting just to talk about that for a moment. As someone who, for decades now, I've helped many, many people, especially young people, in so many ways to try to achieve something, to better their lives in one way or another. Sometimes very fundamentally, sometimes in bigger ways. One thing that I've seen that is a sad hallmark of many young people today especially is lack of perseverance. So in other words, people give up too easily. People just give up too easily, very, very quickly. They'll try something. They'll even have a big vision, that, I want to accomplish this big thing. I want to start a business. I want to have a serious career, making so much money per year, I want to buy a house. I want to do this, that, the other. Sometimes it's something a little bit more personal. They say, yes, I want to learn a martial art and get a black belt. I want to lose weight. I want to get in perfect physical shape, whatever it is. But what I've seen is that all too often people will be on that path for a little while, but then they give up. They don't have the perseverance that's necessary to continue to the end until they finally see success. And without the understanding that, as long as they have all the other requirements that are necessary, they have the talent, they have the knowledge, etc., they're capable of working hard. It's sad when people don't understand that without that perseverance, you won't have success. And then conversely, if you can persevere, in other words, you have ups and downs. You have ups and downs. That's natural. But you don't give up. You don't give up. And however long it takes, you don't give up after a week. You don't give up after a month. You don't give up after 6 months. If people were to have that perseverance, they would see that it truly does work. That people can achieve what it is that they need, desire, and what they are aiming for. So indeed, one of the things necessary for success in life, in addition to all the things I've mentioned, more things that I can mention, is precisely this idea of self-reliance. That if you are the sort of person who you know, oh, can I use a little bit of help from others? Oh, sure. Again, anyone can, and that's a good thing. But when you are so self-propelled that if the help comes, that's nice. That's icing on the cake. If it doesn't come, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's no one to reach out and say, oh, come on, let me help you a little bit. It doesn't matter. If you can still be the sort of person who, despite the fact that you're doing it on your own, you don't give up and you do it, at the end of that path, you have a healthy pride in yourself to the point where you almost feel like you want to cry in relief. And it's the most beautiful thing in the world. I've seen both. I've seen people who give up or who are not self-reliant. I've seen people who indeed do this in the right way and they have success. And when you see the latter, it is the most beautiful thing in the world. It's like seeing the sun rising. It's like seeing a lotus flower unfurling. It is the most amazing thing. But indeed, wonderful verse that, again, we should have this on plaques and put this on every government building. So with that, let's go on to the next verse. And it is, again, Manava Dharma Shastra, and it is now chapter 12, verse 10. And this is conjoined with the verse that comes after it, but we'll deal with this verse first. And it proceeds in this way. That man is called a true Tridandin, in whose mind these three are firmly fixed. 1, control over his speech, Vagdanda. Control over his thoughts, Manodanda. And control over his body, Kayadanda. Very good. So, again, a little bit of this we have heard before, but not in this context and not in this way. So let me just quickly unpack this a little bit. First of all, this word is used here, Tridandin, and that is the word that is in the Sanskrit, actually. Before I do commentary on any verse, and that includes for the live streams or anything, I always make sure I look very closely at the Sanskrit first. And indeed, that is the word that's used here. But what does the word mean? Exactly. Well, let me break down the Sanskrit. Dandin, that means one who has a danda, that is the possessor of a danda. Now, what is a danda? A danda means several different things. It's a very interesting word, actually. It means several different things. The primary meaning is staff or stick. That's what the word means. But when we say stick, we don't mean a small stick. We mean a big stick, something that you could use as a walking staff, something that would be several feet long. That's the first thing that it means. A danda is used both by kshatriyas, by police specifically. It's also used by sages as well. As sages are traversing, often they'll have a danda. They'll have a stick with them. It can be either a tall one, it can be a short one, and it has a lot of symbolism to it that I'm not going to go into now. But let me just say, for example, let me give a little bit of it's not really a secret, it's just not something I've ever discussed. But when people see the live stream and they see me sitting and they'll see a smaller wooden staff in front of me, it's not very long. It's shorter than 2 feet, I believe. That's a danda. That is a yoga danda, very specifically. And it's symbolic of a longer danda. And I've had both. I've had long danda, I've had short danda. But indeed, that's what that is. That's the primary meaning. The secondary meaning is, interestingly, punishment. And why? Well, it's because all throughout time, police often have a stick that they use in order to use, what can you say, to use against criminals. We know that's the case even in America. People would have, police had batons. Well, to this day, if you go to India, anyone who has been there or will go there, you will see that the police, every single police officer has a staff. And I mean a long one. It's like anywhere from 3 to 4 feet. And indeed, they use that for crowd control, etc. So it means punishment. The other thing that the word danda means is control. So it's in this tertiary sense that this term is being used here in Tridanda, Tridandin. So a Tridandin, tri of course means 3. So a Tridandin is one who possesses this threefold control. That's the literal translation of Tridandan. And what control? Well, what's discussed here? Self-control. And specifically, 1, control over his speech. Vag, vach. Vag means speech. So Vagdanda, control over speech. Why is this of importance? Well, if a person is going to have success in life, then an individual indeed has to be able to communicate and to communicate well. That means control over speech. What does that mean in turn? It means that when it is time to be silent, you are silent. When it's time to speak, you speak. And when you speak well. You speak eloquently. You speak persuasively. You speak in such a manner that you accomplish what is your aim right then and there. So thus, if you meet anyone who's successful, they tend to be a good speaker. They have control over their speech. The next thing is manodanda. Mano, from manas, from manaha, means mind. So manodanda, control over one's thoughts, control over the mind. This also is crucial if a person wishes to have success. There's no such thing as a person with short attention span, with what is often called the monkey mind, a mind that can't focus on one thing, that can't concentrate. There's no such thing as such an individual who's going to have success. On the contrary, if you see anyone who's successful in any context, and indeed, again, this means either spiritually or materially, what do you find? You find someone who has absolute control over his mind. And again, what does that mean? They're able to concentrate. They're able to focus. When they need to focus, they need to sit and work on something for 3 hours. They'll do it. And indeed, if they finally do stop to eat or go to the bathroom, that's an afterthought. They suddenly find, oh my Lord, my stomach is making noise. Oh, I guess I haven't eaten. And then they get up and they eat. But indeed, that's what the focus is like, that they work, they work, they work. They also have a mind, indeed, that is able to rest on one thing and then to rest on the second thing that has to come after. In other words, sequentially, not just that they're jumping from one thing to another, to another, to another, but they have the ability to focus their mind in a sequential sort of way. They focus on A, now having accomplished A, they rest A, now they go to B, and they go to C and D, etc. The other thing, of course, is sharpness of mind. That they have a mind that functions extremely well. What does that mean? They have a sharp mind. What is meant by a sharp mind? It's like a sword. That is, it has the ability to discern. The sword, the sharp sword, is often used as a symbol for perfect discernment. That is, as you are thinking, as you are organizing, in your thoughts, you have the ability to discern what is of importance, what is not of importance. What is something where, oh, these are thoughts, but they're just wasting my time right now. And instead, this is what I should be thinking of in order to accomplish this task. And of course, we can go on and on about what it means to have control over mind. But indeed, if a person wishes to have success in this world in any way, materially, to build a business empire, to do anything like this, even something small, to do well in your career, or especially spiritually, you need to have control over your mind. What it means to be a spiritual person is that you are a yogi. What it means to be a yogi is that you meditate. You meditate, you meditate. What it means to meditate is that you have control over the mind. And how do you gain control over the mind? To meditate, you meditate. So in other words, what helps you to have that control over the mind? Meditation. And how do you deepen your meditative experience? You have control over the mind. So the answer is you meditate, you meditate, you meditate. And that way you'll have control over the mind in such a way that with that mind, you will be able to do anything that you desire. Now let's go on to the last verse, which is Manava Dharma Shastra, chapter 12 and verse 11. And again, you'll see how this continues the thought from the last verse. That man who keeps his threefold control over himself with respect to all created beings and wholly subdues desire and wrath, thereby assuredly gains complete success. So this is the summation, but also the conclusion of what we have been looking at here in these teachings of Manu. So let's go through this. So that man, what man? Again, the Tridandan, that individual who has control over these three faculties. That man who keeps this threefold control over himself with respect to all created beings. We're going to stop there with that clause. Now, why is it that, and again, this is in the Sanskrit, I looked, why does he mention with respect to all created beings? Well, when it comes to all three of these activities, and what really are these activities? We've heard this before. I'm sorry, I'm looking at this very quickly, and I realize that my enthusiasm with the last verse, I didn't mention the last thing, did I? I didn't comment on control over his body. So let me back up. Very quickly, let me first just mention that. Control over his body. So, indeed, kaya danda. What does this mean? Well, it means what we would imagine. It means that, A, we have to be in good health. You cannot be in control. You cannot have success unless you are in firm control over the vehicle that will bring you to that success. What is that vehicle? It's the physical body. We are not the physical body. Well, that's not very profound. We're not the car either. But we use the car. We're not the house either. But we need a house in order to live within a house and have shelter. Well, in the same way, we need to take care of the physical body just as much as we would any possession that we have, any tool that we have. What does this mean? To have control over the body means that, A, you are in good health. And what does that mean? Well, if you are a follower of Sanatana Dharma, indeed, if you are a wise individual, what this means is you want to live as healthily as possible. That means that the food that you eat should be as healthy as possible. The water that you drink should be as healthy as possible. Natural spring water if you can, without fluoride, etc. It means that, you have to take all of your supplements, all of your herbs, all of your tinctures, etc. As much as is possible. Yeah, people use this word supplements today, and it means mostly vitamins for people. What a lot of people think a supplement is you take your multivitamin. Well, those are good too. But really what is meant by a supplement are natural supplements, meaning herbs, actual herbs that you can get either from your own garden or that, if necessary, you go to a place where they sell natural herbs, whether it's ashwagandha or holy basil or any natural herb that you can think of that you need for your specific health concerns. You make it into a tea, you make it into a tincture, you make it into a poultice, etc., and you take it. Also, what is meant by having control over the body is exercise. Exercise is crucial. Indeed, this is something that as living beings we cannot live without. One reason why people are so incredibly ill these days is because people are sedentary. People just sit. And it's necessary to actually get as much physical exercise as possible. If you do this, when you reach an older age, you will thank yourself, because you will be able to do things that a lot of people today ceased being able to do when they were 35. You'll be able to do these things when you're 65. So yes, indeed, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to do yoga. We need to do asanas. We need to do Surya Namaskara whenever we can. And in this way, have complete control over our body, the very vehicle that will take us to success. All right. And again, it was my fault. I apologize for skipping over that very last clause. Now we will go to the next verse quickly. So indeed, as I was saying, why is it that Manu here mentions not only these threefold controls over oneself that one should have, but he says specifically with respect to all created beings? Well, all three of these modes of action, and again, as I was about to say, we've encountered these modes before of action. That is everything that we speak, everything that we think, and everything that we do, all actions. We've encountered this many times. Well, that's what Manu is speaking about here. These relate especially when it comes to other living beings. When we speak, we're not speaking to walls. I mean, some people will, but that's not good. That's not a good sign. We're speaking to other living beings. When we're thinking about other living beings, or I should say, when we're thinking in a way that is ethical in nature, spiritual in nature, of importance, we are doing so with other beings in mind. See, a person can say, well, I do mathematics. I'm not thinking of living beings. Well, we're talking about things of more importance than mathematics. We're talking about, again, ethics, spirituality, philosophy, etc. When thinking about such things, other beings are involved. And then in doing, what we do to a rock and that action not really affecting anything or anyone else really is of no meaning. But what we do to other people is nothing but meaningful. So indeed, what Manu is trying to explain here is that what he is saying especially applies when it comes to other living beings, i.e. other Atmans, who in that sense are like ourselves, in that if we harm them, we are in a way harming ourselves. If we do good to them, we are doing good to ourselves. So that's why he mentions this with respect to all living beings. So he goes on, and that person who wholly subdues his desire and wrath. His desire and wrath, these are two opposites. So an individual who has control indeed of these two things, he subdues desire and wrath. Why are these opposites? How do these operate in our life? Well, every living being has both. And how do we understand this? We all desire things. The ant desires things. The cat desires things. The egret desires things. People note sometimes I like to use egrets as an example. I don't know why, I just like the word. It just sounds very, very funny when I mention egrets. Elephants desire things. Every living being desires things. Obviously, humans desire things. What does that mean? That means that we see an object and we desire to have that object in our possession. But then what is wrath? Wrath is the opposite. By wrath, of course, is meant anger, but also it means that there is a repelling sort of motion that occurs. When you have wrath, what does that mean? You want to be away from that object of your wrath. You have disdain for that object of your wrath. Well, what Manu is saying here is that we have to subdue both. We have to be in control of our desires. That is, if we desire something, there's nothing wrong with desire in and of itself. But we have to have a dignified and very dignified and intelligent and wise approach to those things which we desire. We can't just desire everything and anything simply for their own sake. But again, to desire things that will help us to grow in important ways, that's a good thing. To desire to have a fifth donut when we've just had 4, that's not a good desire. Those are the desires we have to control, to use one of thousands of examples. And then when it comes to wrath, that is feeling this sense of being repulsed by things. Well, there are, again, indeed, a few things which it is natural to feel repulsed by them. If you see someone who's a truly evil person, an abusive person, you should feel repulsed. If you see something that is truly contaminated and filthy and can make you ill, you should feel repulsed. You go to your refrigerator and you see some food that has spoiled and become rotten. You should be repulsed. That is, you should be drawn away from it, etc. But taking this too far is not a good thing. We shouldn't have wrath when ego is involved. That, for example, there's an innocent person and, they've done nothing to harm us, but we still feel this sense of wrath toward them anyway. No, that's not good. That is to be subdued. So indeed, we are to have control over desire and wrath as much as is possible. And let's go on. Finally, thereby, assuredly, that person gains complete success. So very important that this is how this ends. Because listen to the wording. Again, there's a reason why I really focus on the words, the wording, how things are stated in the Vedic scriptures. Because it's too easy to not do so. It's too easy to just kind of very quickly skip through something. Thereby, in other words, by doing everything that was just described in these last 3 verses, assuredly, this is Manu. This is our great-great-great-grandfather. This is the originator of the human race. And when he says assuredly, he means this is guaranteed. It is guaranteed that such a person gains success? No, complete success. Complete success. What an amazing thing to hear. Imagine, for those of us who, we had wonderful parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, etc., that's a wonderful thing, but just envision that you have your one of your grandparents, let's say your grandfather, and you're really trying to work hard to achieve something, and sometimes you yourself even doubt, oh, I wonder if I can really do this. Imagine your grandfather coming to you and saying to you, no, you will have complete success. That would be literally like wind beneath your wings as you're trying to soar into the sky. The inspiration that would give you. Well, this is what Manu is telling us. That if we follow these principles that he is telling us here, we will have complete success, and it's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. The words are here, the teachings are here, the principles are here. The rest, of course, the action, that's up to us. So with that, I will end my talk here, and I thank you all very much for listening to my talk. I ask you all to please continue in every way to do all the good that you are doing. Indeed, this was a talk on success. I wish you all continued success in your lives with any positive and good thing that you are doing, big and small. And with that, everyone, take very good care. Namaste. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Take care, everyone.